about 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who had used to work for me, and one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They've just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And so I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, he said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran." The truth is about the Middle East is, had there been no oil there, it would be like Africa.
The U.S. has located 300 Marines in northern Jordan near the border with Syria, along with a Patriot anti-aircraft missile system. That report from the Times of London. The U.S. military says they're only there as part of a military training exercise. Other than that, we know very little about the role of those Marines, other than the fact that they will remain there for at least several months. So the big question, how long before the United States is involved in Syria? The answer, we already are. The United States has already provided millions in financial help to the FSA, or the Free Syrian Army. We've also provided non-lethal assistance to the FSA, satellite radios as well as body armor. So what's the problem here? Well, there is in fact an enormous problem. This is the part of the story that so much of the media is just not telling you. The war in Syria is not a true civil war. 2 years ago, President Bashar al-Assad was fairly unpopular with his people. And people who I have talked to living in Syria today tell me there was justified and growing anger against Assad. 2 years ago, when civil unrest started, it looked as if there would be a push for freedom. But in short time, the people fighting that war against the government became not Syrian citizens, but jihadists and Al-Qaeda fighters. You see, there are multiple groups fighting to overthrow the Assad regime. The FSA, or the Free Syrian Army, well, they are the ones making the requests for help from the U.S. They're the second largest group. But the largest group, Al-Nusra Front. Who's that? Al-Nusra Front is the Syrian wing of Al-Qaeda in Iraq. The UK Guardian reported that the best financed, best equipped, and best motivated force taking on the Syrian government is not the FSA, but Al-Nusra. What's more, the Free Syrian Army is losing thousands of fighters and capabilities to Al-Nusra. So if these guys are so bad, why aren't we hearing more about it?
We know that for 3 days before the attack, the Syrian regime's chemical weapons personnel were on the ground in the area making preparations. And we know that the Syrian regime elements were told to prepare for the attack by putting on gas masks and taking precautions associated with chemical weapons.
Welcome to the program. The UN says there is evidence that chemical weapons have been used in Syria, but it suspects rebel forces are responsible, not the government. The UN's investigator Carla Del Ponte says interviews with victims and doctors in countries neighbouring Syria suggest the use of the nerve gas sarin, which causes asphyxia. It's classified as a weapon of mass destruction, and it's banned under international law.
Only 11% of the public, according to the Daily Telegraph this morning, support Britain becoming involved in a war in Syria. Can ever a British government have imagined sending its men and women to war with the support of just 11% in public opinion? First, that there is no compelling evidence, to use the leader of the opposition's words, that the Assad regime is responsible for this crime, yet.
To hell with the facts. Damn those who ask for the presentation of any shred of proof that these chemical weapons attacks can be blamed on Assad. Damn all logic in asking us to believe that Assad waited until chemical weapons inspectors arrived in his country before using chemical weapons in a war that he was already winning anyway. Damn the staggering 91% of the public who do not support the idea of military intervention.
To launch a chemical weapons attack in Damascus on the very day that a United Nations chemical weapons inspection team arrives in Damascus must be a new definition of madness. And of course, if he is that mad, how mad's he going to be once we've launched a blizzard of Tomahawk cruise missiles upon his country? The reason for the unease is that people can see the character of the Syrian opposition. They have seen the videos. We've heard about horrific videos. Take a look at the video of one of the commanders of the Syrian revolution cutting open the chest of a human being and eating his heart and liver and videotaping himself and putting it up on YouTube because he thought it might be considered attractive. Take a look at the videos of Christian priests having their heads sawn off, not chopped off, sawn off with bread knives. Even a bishop in the Christian church was murdered by these people. Every religious minority in Syria, and there are 23 of those, is petrified at the victory of the Syrian rebels that the British Prime Minister and Foreign Secretary have been doing their utmost to supply with weapons and money these last 2 years, and they cannot deny it. They say it's now about this crime, whoever committed it.
All over YouTube are videos posted by members of the Free Syrian Army or Al-Nusra Front demonstrating what they are doing now and what they will do in Syria once they have control. Beheadings of anyone seen as a traitor or siding with the government, and the slaughtering of many innocent people. And there is something else about the situation in Syria that American media is not telling you. Until this war started 2 years ago, Syria was one of the few places in the Middle East where Christians, Shiite Muslims, Sunni Muslims, Alawites, and Jews all lived in peace with each other. Al-Nusra is working to end that. I want you to watch for a minute here this YouTube video of members of Al-Nusra after they've taken a Syrian town. The video here uploaded by Syrian Rebel Watch. There is translation of the words this child is singing at the bottom of the screen.
دمرنا أمريكا طيارة مدنية برج التجارة غدا قومة ترابية برج التجارة غدا قومة ترابية شرطان صيرية صبرا يا علوية بزبع جيبك
And those kinds of videos are hidden in plain sight all over the internet. But the American people either don't know they're there or don't care. What you need to know is that what is happening in Syria is an enormous problem for the United States. Al-Assad may be a poor leader, but at least he allowed the people in Syria, regardless of their religious beliefs, to live at peace. Al-Qaeda in Iraq has publicly stated that their goal is to create an Al-Qaeda superstate comprised of Iraq and Syria. By funding these so-called rebels, the U.S. government is handing Al-Qaeda the keys to that superstate. By the United States supporting the overthrow of Assad, Without question, we will hand Syria over to Al-Qaeda, make no mistake. And the slaughter of millions of Syrians, including Syrian Christians, Jews, Alawites, and Muslims, will be on our hands.